The Dallas Mavericks have won 3 games in a row, fueled by the return of Anthony Davis and the awakening of the Mavericks offense. The game right before the 3-game winning streak, too, was that game in Los Angeles against the Lakers where they actually looked pretty good. They held a fourth quarter lead in that game before losing control of it late. And it's just been awesome to watch Anthony Davis back on the court. He's been a frustrating player for me to root for over the years as a guy who roots for the Lakers, right? Because I'm just so sick of the exact same damn thing happening every year where he comes into camp overweight, seemingly by design, if you listen to him explain it. But then NBA basketball is hard, and especially hard when you're carrying extra weight. So he would inevitably end up getting some sort of wear and tear injury that knocks him out for a while. And that happened again this season. And every season kind of becomes a race for AD. Like, can he get in shape before his body breaks down? And he did the same thing in Los Angeles seemingly every year. And for the record, there were years where that worked out. Like 2023, similarly got injured in the middle, but he managed to get in shape and maintain his body enough to finish the playoff run. And he had a really nice playoff run where he went to the Western Conference Finals before getting his butt kicked by Jokic. But 2024, and I think part of this was he played so deep into the summer with the Western Conference Finals, they had a shorter offseason. Came into 2024 and played 76 games. And when he made it to the Denver series in the first round, he was awesome in the Denver series. Very different than how he played in the 2023 series. Like, he was pretty much bar for bar right there with Jokic in that 2024 first round series. And so AD is very much a rhythm player. He needs to be healthy and stay on the court for a long time so that he's in shape, so that he can flash his upside. And that the flip side of that dynamic, when he loses control of his conditioning and starts to suffer nagging injuries because his body can't hold up, that's where it can be, frustrating in the other direction. And we've seen, obviously the worst side of that spectrum since he went to Dallas. But every time you actually see healthy, on the floor Anthony Davis, his talent is undeniable. And the crazy thing for Mavs fans, I would say, is like, I still don't think he's close to full rhythm right now. He's still a bit slow-footed. You saw in the Miami game last night, he had a couple of jumpers that he airballed that were like 2 or 3 feet short of the rim. That's a lift and conditioning thing that will eventually come around. But even this version of AD that's still working his way into shape is an all-NBA level contributor on both ends of the floor. And it was really fun, especially in the Denver and Miami games, to watch the different ways that AD dominated. Like against Denver, for instance, like Jokic straight up did not want to post him up. That's where AD carrying some extra weight probably helps him. But that ended up being a big problem for Denver down the stretch of that game because Jamal Murray wasn't able to finish the game. So the Mavs were able to force a bunch of jump shots from guys like Cam Johnson and Spencer Jones late in the game. And Jokic wasn't going into the post against AD at all. And so AD was able to defend more like traditional 2-man game sequences where he's dropping towards the basket. Got some really good contests at the rim. He had a huge one late in the game where he forced Bruce Brown into a miss right at the basket. And then on offense, he like killed Jokic in that game in a bunch of ways. Jokic was giving him space for jump shots, and he ended up making 5 jump shots in that game, either spotting up or facing up in ISO. And he killed Jokic on the offensive glass whenever Jokic helped on drives. He had 3 putbacks where like Jokic would step over to help and AD would just come in from behind and like dunk it in on a putback. The exact opposite of that dynamic is how he dominated the Miami Heat in there on the defensive end in that particular game last night. Like that dance that I'm talking about, that like where Jokic is like, okay, do I help on this drive, but then give AD the offensive rebound? That is a critical dance that bigs make in drop coverage situations and in help situations when they're just helping at the basket. So a lot in the Miami game because there's fewer ball screens, right? But do you go for the block and potentially leave your assignment free for an offensive rebound, or do you stay back and let the ball handler get a shot off so that you can secure the defensive rebound? And one of the tricky things with driving layups is it's not variance in the way that jump shooting is. Jump shooting, it's like, okay, this guy is going to get the shot up and it's going to go in some percentage of the time, right? And the contest is going to make a mild difference. Like, some open shooters might shoot 45% when they're wide open and 38% when they're guarded, or 38% when they're wide open and 32% when they're guarded, right? Like there's a little bit of a difference between contest and no contest when it comes to jump shooting. Layups are very different, right? Like if a guy beats you clean off the dribble and goes right to the front of the rim, he's making the layup every time. Like call it 95% of the time he's going to make the layup. But if you have a guy on your hip and it's a contested layup, that percentage plummets down to like 50-50 at best for most NBA players. So like a contest on a layup is way more likely to cause a dramatic shift in the shot result. So that's the dance that the big guys have to make. Do I need to go over and help because he's going to make the layup? Or is he highly likely to miss anyway, and I'm actually better used as a rebounder here staying back? That's the dance that Jokic was botching in the Denver game where AD kept getting dunks over the top of him. Against Miami, AD had a ton of similar reads to make. Like, Miami doesn't run very many ball screens, although it's worth mentioning they ran a little bit more than usual against Dallas trying to attack their bigs. But he found himself in a lot of situations where Heat players were driving at him and he had to make a decision. And the Mavs defenders all night were doing a great job staying attached to the basketball. One of the subplots at the end of that game was Najee Marshall, who was doing a great job on Tyler Hero. And Tyler kind of didn't want the basketball in his hands late in that game because of the job that Najee Marshall was doing. And AD is just so good at that particular dance. He's one of the best that I've seen at that specific dynamic of when to help versus when to stay home. And he had 16 defensive rebounds in that game, and many of them were sequences where he made really smart defensive reads at the rim to not go for a block because he saw that his perimeter defenders were chesting up with a drive and probably going to force into some misses, right? Then on the offensive end against Miami, AD dominated in a very different way. Like, he only had 17 points, but he was consistently drawing second defenders in the post. And this was a game, and AD can be a little tricky handling double teams. It's been an inconsistent thing for him in his life. But that last night in particular, I thought he did a great job posting on that left block, especially down the stretch, and making that skip pass, particularly to the opposite wing. And then the Mavs were able to get into their drive and kick from it. And they got some really good looks out of that. And Miami actually ended up letting him work one-on-one on a key possession late. And he just turned over his right shoulder over Tyler Hero, hit that little bank shot. So like different kind of dominance from Anthony Davis. And I know it's been a rough year for Mavs fans, and it's not much consolation to see Anthony Davis playing well with this few wins coming, to this point in the season. But it's just a casual reminder that Anthony Davis is a bona fide star. Like, in back-to-back games, he outplayed Nikola Jokic and Bam Adebayo. There's not many players in the league that can do that. He's still one of the best defensive players in the league, and he's still a very good offensive weapon in his own way. But of course, Anthony Davis is not the only reason that the Mavs are on a 3-game win streak. They also have a 119 offensive rating in their last 3 games. They're scoring the ball better than they have all season, and that's helping them close these games out. There are 3 players in particular that I want to shout out here. And first is Cooper Flagg, who's riding his first consistent stretch of high-level offensive play as a pro. In fact, he's the youngest player in NBA history to log 3 consecutive 20-point games. And it's being driven by 2 things: cutting down on his 3-point attempts and driving the hell out of the basketball as a result of that. And then the second piece of it is focusing on shorter range shot making when it comes to his jump shot. The drives have been super impressive. He's attacking downhill out of spot ups with like these quick jab steps or quick rip through moves, and he's beating his man consistently. It's a way that he's spacing the floor without necessarily hitting threes, as his 3-point attempts have gone about half his season average over the course of the last 3 games. And in each case, he just kind of gets that shoulder into you, and he can finish with his left hand and his right hand. And he's just a force to be reckoned with as an athlete going downhill. Too big, too skilled, and too mobile. And then with the short range shot making, it's about minimizing variance, right? Finding an easier shot for him to make that takes advantage of his size. Cooper is shooting only 28% on jump shots outside of 17 feet this year. 28% on mid-rangers outside of 17 feet and 28% from 3. But he's shooting 46% inside of 17 feet. And that's fueled by this recent run. He's 8 out of 11 in this 3-game span on jump shots inside of 17 feet. It's a much easier shot for him that he can get to there, and he's hitting it at a high clip. And it's not just jump shooting either. Like, he's been hitting these little short bank shots and these little floaters. And you guys know how big of a fan I am of short range shot making, because I think it just can be so much more reliable night to night than distance shot making. And in late game situations, it can be a reliable thing to go to. Last thing with Cooper, I think the rise of Ryan Nembhard has simplified his role a bit. He's constantly looking to attack now off of the catch when he gets a chance. either in a spot up situation and in action. He's attacking really hard. And I think a big part of that is because he doesn't have as much ball handling responsibility that he's had at other points in the season. So he doesn't have to pay so much attention to like making reads and managing the flow of the game. He's just in attack mode right now, and it's working really well for him. Secondly is the aforementioned rise of Ryan Nembhard. Just the spitting image of his brother as a high-level pick-and-roll player, hitting little drop coverage shots in the mid-range, beating bigs and forwards and switches with nasty dribble combinations into mid-rangers. In the Denver game, he hit a couple of super tough layups on hard drives to the basket, some impressive rim finishing from him. And then the passing ability is real. Just making those reads in action, hitting the pocket and pick and roll, making that skip pass. He had this pass to Klay Thompson in the corner in the Miami game where he was kind of way up at the top and Klay was open in the corner and he hit him with the pass right in the top of his shooting pocket so that Klay was able to catch into like a no dip, that like classic Klay no dip three that he hit. It was a big shot in that game too. I've talked a lot over the years about how your value as a basketball player is unique to your basketball team and what they need. And this team has needed a ball handler that can both score and make reads. I thought it would be D'Lo, but it just hasn't worked out with D'Lo this season. Although to his credit, D'Lo actually had a nice game against Miami yesterday, hit some big shots. They tried Brandon Williams for a while. That was more bad than good. Ryan has done the best job filling that role. And it's been a big part of this offensive explosion from this team. He's had 43 points and 23 assists in his last two games with only one turnover and only 6 missed shots. That's pretty remarkable stuff. And the play type data is super impressive. He's now up to 68 pick and rolls this year, including passes, 83 points generated, 1.22 points per possession. That's excellent. Big part of that is his own personal shooting. He's shooting 15 for 20 in pick and roll as the ball handler. 13 for 18 from 2 and 2 for 2 from 3. And then he's beating switches. He's had 17 ISOs this season, including passes, 18 points generated. On 10 shot attempts, he's made 4 and drew a foul on 1. So he scored on half of his own shot attempts in ISO. Then he's generated a couple of buckets on kickouts and 1 on a drop off. So he's been good in ISO as well. And then lastly, Klay Thompson. The beef with Ja Morant appears to have awakened a competitive side in Klay that is leading to some vintage basketball from him. And since the start of that Memphis game, so a 6-game sample size, 17 points per game from Klay, 48% on 9 3-point attempts per game, hitting a lot of big shots too. And he's just becoming an all too important release valve for this Mavericks offense in terms of kickouts because he can take and make contested catch and shoot threes as well as the wide open ones. It's not too late for Dallas to work their way in the mix here. They're only 1.5 games back in the 9 seed, 3.5 games back of Golden State in the 8 seed. And this is not fake basketball. This is a legit top 5 defense that added a legit two-way superstar in Anthony Davis that is capable of outplaying some of the best players in the league at his position. And you have 2 blossoming young players in Ryan Nembhard and Cooper Flagg with some really good role players around him too, by the way. And like PJ Washington, he turned his ankle about a week ago. Him and Derek Lively are out right now. Like they're going to be, a very talented basketball team when they're healthy, kind of like we expected coming into the season. They just needed a ball handler to pop and they needed Cooper to find his footing. And that's what's happening with Ryan and Cooper right now. And just a tiny little bit of light in the darkness for Mavs fans. And the play of Anthony Davis is super encouraging regardless of what happens because he's either going to help you in a Mavs jersey or he's going to massively inflate his trade value and help you build around Cooper for the future.